Have you ever felt a heaviness in your stomach after a regular lunch? Or woken up feeling nauseous for no clear reason? As we get older, even small digestive changes might not be so harmless. Some of these sensations can be early warning signs, and catching them in time can make all the difference. Today, I'll walk you through 6 stomach sensations you should never ignore after age 60. Each one could be a clue, a key to early diagnosis, peace of mind, and getting the right support when it matters most. No panic, just clear, simple steps you can start today. Let's start with something many folks tell me they quietly deal with: a stubborn, bloated feeling in the stomach, even first thing in the morning before eating anything at all. Now, I know it's easy to shrug that off. Maybe you think it's just part of aging or something you ate the night before. But when bloating becomes a daily companion, especially without any clear reason, it can be your body waving a little flag asking you to pay attention. For people over 60, our digestion can naturally slow down, and things like reduced enzyme production, changes in gut bacteria, or sensitivities we didn't have before can suddenly cause trouble. In some cases, it can also point to more serious concerns like inflammation in the digestive tract or issues with the pancreas. And the thing is, you deserve to feel light and comfortable after a meal, not heavy and swollen. I remember a woman I worked with not too long ago. Her name was Margaret, 68, from Tempe, Arizona. She was one of those people who kept things to herself. When we met, she said with a laugh, "It's silly, but my stomach thinks I ate a Thanksgiving dinner, even when I just have tea." That struck me. She told me the bloating started months ago, gradually creeping in, at first just in the evenings, but then it showed up in the mornings too. She tried cutting out dairy, then bread, then fruit. Nothing helped. She even tried one of those over-the-counter cleanses that promised a flat belly, and all it gave her was a sleepless night. When we finally ran a few simple tests and did an abdominal ultrasound, we found early signs of chronic pancreatitis. It wasn't yet severe and thankfully treatable with some changes to her diet and medication. But the real win was this: Margaret felt heard. She wasn't being dramatic or just aging, as someone once told her. She had a real reason to feel that way. And it reminded me again how important it is not to brush things off when something feels off. Another gentleman I worked with, Charles, 71, from Iowa, had a similar story. For him, the culprit was small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, something easily missed but manageable once diagnosed. Both of them felt the same way when we talked. I wish I'd said something sooner. So here's something simple that often helps my patients and something you can start today. Keep a small food and symptom journal for 1 week. It doesn't need to be fancy. Just jot down what you ate, what time you ate it, and how your stomach felt afterward. Note any bloating, cramping, or heaviness. Over time, patterns can become surprisingly clear, like noticing that oats cause issues but rice doesn't, or that dinner portions are just a bit too much. I also encourage gentle walks after meals, even 10 minutes. Movement can help your digestion more than any pill sometimes. You don't need to live with discomfort just because someone told you it's part of aging. Even small steps, like writing down what you eat, can lead to big changes. Your body has a rhythm, and it's always trying to talk to you. And when you listen, even just a little, it responds. You deserve to eat with ease, to wake up feeling light, and to move through your day with comfort. This isn't about being perfect, it's about being kind to yourself. And that's where healing begins. Here's another sensation I'd encourage you not to brush off: that burning feeling in your upper stomach or just under your ribs, especially if it comes out of nowhere or wakes you up at night. Many people tell me they just pop an antacid and move on, and while that might give relief now and then, it can also delay getting real answers. After age 60, the stomach lining becomes thinner, acid levels can shift, and your body may not handle certain foods the way it used to. What might feel like simple heartburn could actually be gastritis, an ulcer starting to form, or in some cases, even a warning sign from your heart. That's right. Some heart attacks in older adults present not as chest pain, but as what feels like stomach burn. That's why it's so important not to ignore this type of discomfort, especially if it keeps coming back or shows up during rest. I remember working with Walter, a kind and sharp 72-year-old from Tallahassee, Florida. He was always the type to minimize things, former Army, proud, didn't like doctors. When he finally came in, he told me he'd been feeling a weird, burning pressure right below his sternum, especially after dinner, And sometimes during his evening walks, he assumed it was just acid reflux. He tried ginger tea, over-the-counter pills, even changed his dinner time, but nothing really fixed it. His daughter finally convinced him to get it checked. I'm glad she did. We ran a few tests, nothing invasive, and discovered that he had a small gastric ulcer starting to form. It wasn't serious yet, but it was at the stage where it could have gone either way. A simple change in medication, a modified diet, and cutting back on some anti-inflammatory pain relievers helped him feel better within weeks. But what stood out most was what Walter said later. I kept telling myself, don't make a fuss. Turns out I should have fussed a little sooner. Another patient, Bernice, 69 from Ohio, had a similar issue, but hers turned out to be heart-related. She felt the burn mostly at night, which led us to do a cardiac workup, and she ended up getting care that likely prevented a much more serious event. What often helps people in this situation, and it's easy to start, is keeping track of when the burning sensation happens, what you ate beforehand, and how long it lasts. If it shows up more than 2 or 3 times a week or wakes you at night, that's a signal. Don't just treat it with antacids and move on. Bring it up with your primary care provider. Ask whether it might be time for a routine scope or even just a simple blood test. These days, checking for ulcers or heart concerns can often be done with very low-stress, non-invasive tools. And don't forget to look at your medications. Some pain pills or even supplements can irritate the stomach lining over time. You don't have to power through discomfort. I say this all the time because it matters. Your body talks to you in gentle nudges long before it starts shouting. That burn you feel isn't weakness, it's wisdom, your body's way of asking for a little help. You've taken care of so many others in your life. You deserve the same care, and it starts with listening to the small, persistent signals. Small steps, like paying attention to patterns and asking the right questions, can lead to big relief. And you're not alone in this. You're worth the clarity, the comfort, and the peace that come with feeling truly well. Here's something I've seen more than once that deserves a closer look. When someone over 60 suddenly loses interest in food, not just skipping a meal here or there, but that slow, creeping feeling where nothing smells good, nothing tastes right, and they feel tired even before the day really begins. I know it's easy to think, well, I'm just not as hungry as I used to be, or to chalk it up to stress or aging. But a sudden or lasting drop in appetite, especially if it comes with low energy, can be your body quietly waving a flag. Older adults, appetite loss isn't just a small inconvenience. It can be one of the earliest signs of serious changes inside. That includes undiagnosed infections, thyroid issues, liver or kidney concerns, and sometimes even early warning signs of cancer. Your metabolism slows a bit with age, yes, but your hunger should never vanish entirely. When your body doesn't ask for fuel and you still feel weak or drained, that's worth your attention. Let me tell you about a woman I worked with not long ago, Dolores, 70, from Madison, Wisconsin. She'd always loved to cook and was known for her Sunday casseroles at church, but she came in one spring looking thinner, quieter. She told me, I just don't care about food anymore. Even the smell of cinnamon rolls makes me feel nothing. She'd also started feeling winded walking to the mailbox, which was new for her. Her kids had noticed she wasn't finishing her meals, and she said it had been going on for about 3 weeks. We checked her labs, and her thyroid hormone levels were off. She had developed hypothyroidism, which can slow everything down, including digestion and mood. It wasn't dramatic, but enough to affect her appetite and energy. With treatment, her energy slowly returned, and so did her interest in food. Another patient, George, 74, from Fresno, had a similar experience. No hunger, plus a sense of fullness after just a few bites. For him, it turned out to be mild liver dysfunction related to long-term medication use. Once we adjusted his meds and supported his liver, he felt better in just a few weeks. The pattern I keep seeing is this. The earlier someone speaks up about a change in appetite, the easier it usually is to help. What often helps people take that first step is something really simple. Ask yourself honestly, has my appetite changed in the past 2 weeks? If the answer is yes, if you're eating less or food just feels like a chore, don't dismiss it, especially if you're also more tired, weaker, or dropping weight without trying. One of the most practical steps you can take is to mention it to your primary care doctor and ask for basic blood work. You don't need to come in with a theory, just describe what's changed. Doctors don't expect you to solve the puzzle. We're here to help figure it out with you. Even something like adjusting your vitamin D or iron levels can make a difference. You don't need to force yourself to eat out of guilt, but you do deserve to understand why your appetite has changed. Appetite is a quiet but powerful signal of life. It's your body's way of staying connected to joy, energy, and even memory. I like to think of it as a light on your dashboard, not something to fear, but something to notice and respond to with care. You're not being dramatic, you're being attentive, and even gentle attention can bring you back to feeling like yourself again. Let me share something I hear more often than people expect. When someone tells me they feel a dull ache or sharp discomfort in their upper belly, often on the right side, and it seems to show up just as they're getting ready to sleep. Sometimes they'll say, "It's worse when I lie down," or "After dinner, it comes and goes." For folks over 60, this kind of nighttime abdominal pain isn't just annoying. It can be a sign that something deeper is going on, particularly with the gallbladder or pancreas. As we age, our digestive organs can become more sensitive, and certain foods, especially heavy, fatty meals, can trigger discomfort that's easy to mistake for something minor like gas or acid. But when pain wakes you up or keeps you from sleeping, that's your body's way of raising its voice. And sleep matters. Without it, everything from memory to immunity suffers. I remember a man named Gary, 74, retired postman from Charleston, South Carolina, who came to see me after 3 months of these mysterious nighttime aches. He said he could walk 5 miles without an issue, but around 9 or 10 p.m., he'd get this squeezing pain just below his right rib cage. He tried elevating his pillow, skipping dessert, even sleeping in a recliner. He was the kind of guy who didn't like to complain. He called the pain a nuisance. But his wife was the one who nudged him to see me. We talked through his habits, did some basic tests, and then followed up with an ultrasound. That's when we found it, a gallstone lodged in a way that wasn't blocking anything fully, but was clearly irritating the gallbladder, especially after evening meals. It wasn't an emergency yet, but it wasn't going to go away on its own. Gary ended up getting the treatment he needed, and I'll never forget what he told me afterward. I didn't realize how tired I'd become from bad sleep. I thought I was just getting old. Another woman, Eileen, 69, from Minnesota, had a similar issue, but hers was linked to mild chronic pancreatitis triggered by a combination of high-fat meals and old medications. Once we adjusted her diet and coordinated with her doctor to modify her meds, the difference was night and day, literally. What often helps, especially before the problem becomes serious, is paying attention to how your body reacts to dinner. One of the simplest things you can do is to eat your last full meal at least 3 hours before bedtime and aim to keep it on the lighter side. Less fried food, fewer sauces, and smaller portions overall. If you notice that pain shows up after a specific kind of food, say bacon or creamy pasta, try avoiding it for a week and see what happens. And if lying flat makes it worse, try sleeping with your upper body slightly elevated or resting on your left side. But above all, don't ignore recurring pain, especially if it shows up in a pattern. Mention it to your doctor and ask about imaging, like an abdominal ultrasound. It's painless, quick, and can often spot issues that aren't obvious in blood work alone. You deserve restful sleep, the kind that helps your body heal and your mind stay clear. And sometimes getting back to that kind of sleep starts with listening to your gut, quite literally. Pain is never just part of aging when it's persistent. Your body is trying to help you live well, not just get by. Even small changes, why, like adjusting your dinner time or checking in with your doctors, can open the door to bigger comfort. You've earned that comfort, and trust me, your body will thank you for it. Here's something that might seem small at first, but can quietly wear you down over time, feeling nauseous for no clear reason. I've had many older adults tell me they just feel off, like their stomach is unsettled, but they can't point to a bad meal or a stomach bug. It's not always dramatic, maybe just a light queasiness that comes and goes, or a lingering sensation that makes eating feel like a chore. And while occasional nausea happens to everyone, if it lingers for several days or keeps returning without a pattern, it's something to look into. After 60, your body responds differently to stress, medications, blood pressure shifts, and even heart changes. In fact, some heart conditions, especially in women, can start with what feels like stomach discomfort or unexplained nausea. I always tell my patients, your body whispers before it shouts, and nausea is one of those quiet signals that should never be brushed aside. Let me share the story of Ruth, a thoughtful, kind woman from Dayton, Ohio, who came to see me at 66. She'd been feeling queasy most mornings, often skipping breakfast because she just couldn't stomach it. At first, she thought it was anxiety. Her husband had recently passed, and she assumed it was emotional. She said, "I feel like I'm running on low battery, and food doesn't even sound good." She tried ginger tea, ate smaller meals, avoided greasy food. Nothing really helped. After a couple of weeks, her daughter brought her in, and I'm glad she did. Ruth's blood pressure at the clinic was sky high, though she said she didn't feel dizzy or have headaches. We did a few quick tests and found she was having a hypertensive episode. Her blood pressure was spiking so high it was triggering nausea as a response. Once we adjusted her medication and gave her time to recover, the nausea faded. She was relieved, of course, but also surprised. She hadn't connected a stomach symptom to a heart-related cause. Another gentleman I worked with, Harold, 71, from Arizona, had persistent nausea for weeks, which turned out to be an early warning sign of kidney strain caused by a medication he'd been taking for years. In both cases, the solution came from listening to a quiet symptom instead of ignoring it. One of the most helpful steps you can take if you're experiencing this kind of nausea is to track it for just a few days. Note the time of day it happens, whether it's tied to meals or movement, and how strong it feels. If it's not connected to food or if it wakes you up or stays consistent, don't just wait it out. Bring those notes to your doctor and explain what's changed. Even if you think it's just stress, it's worth checking in. Sometimes all it takes is a small change in blood pressure medication or check on your kidney or liver function to bring relief. Nausea without cause isn't something you need to live with. You deserve clarity, peace, and the simple joy of enjoying food again. Feeling unsettled for days on end chips away at your energy, your mood, and your confidence. But here's the truth. When you take even a small symptom seriously, you're not being dramatic, you're being wise. Think of it like tuning a piano. One note out of place can throw off the harmony, but with attention, the balance comes back. You can feel better, you can feel clear, and you're absolutely worth that kind of care. Let me wrap this up with something a lot of folks quietly deal with, but don't often talk about. That heavy, full feeling in the upper part of the belly after a meal, especially dinner. You might not call it pain exactly, but more like pressure or tightness right below the ribs, like your food's just sitting there. And while it might be easy to think, I just ate too much, if this keeps happening, it could be a sign your digestive system is slowing down or struggling to do its job. As we get older, our gallbladder may not empty as quickly, our liver can get a little sluggish, and the way we break down fat starts to change. That feeling of heaviness might be your body's way of letting you know it's time to adjust how and what you're eating. Or, in some cases, it might be the very first sign of a deeper issue, like early-stage liver changes or a bile flow problem. Remember a gentleman named Henry, 69, from Kansas City. He'd come in for a routine checkup, and during our chat, he casually mentioned something that caught my ear. I feel like a rock settles in my gut after dinner, even if it's just soup and crackers. That heaviness had been going on for a few months, he said, but since it wasn't sharp pain, he didn't think it was worth mentioning. We talked more, and I asked a few simple questions. How long after eating does it last? What kinds of foods made it worse? And if he noticed any other symptoms like bloating or fatigue. Henry said it was always worst in the evening and seemed to show up even after small meals. So we did a simple abdominal ultrasound and a liver panel, and it turned out he had early signs of fatty liver, also called hepatic steatosis. The good news is it hadn't progressed to something dangerous, and we were able to intervene right away. We adjusted a few of his meals, reduced some over-the-counter supplements that were putting stress on his liver, and encouraged him to do short walks after eating. Within a few weeks, the heaviness faded, and he started sleeping better, too. Another patient, Judith, 72, from Oregon, had the same sensation, and for her, it was tied to sluggish gallbladder function. With just a few dietary changes and better meal timing, she felt like herself again. One of the easiest ways to reduce that heavy post-meal feeling is to shift a few small habits. What often helps is eating smaller portions more slowly, especially in the evening. If you can, make lunch your bigger meal and dinner something lighter. Try sipping water before your meal, not during, to avoid diluting your stomach acids while eating. And if you can manage it, take a gentle 5 to 10 minute walk afterward instead of lying down. That simple movement can help your body kickstart digestion. Most importantly, pay attention to patterns. If it happens daily, even with light food, it's worth bringing up with your doctor to check your liver and gallbladder function. You don't need to settle for discomfort or feel like your meals are a burden. Eating should be a pleasure, not a source of pressure, literally or emotionally. Think of your body as a trusted companion. When something feels heavy, it's not being dramatic. It's asking for kindness, for adjustment, for attention. You absolutely can feel lighter again. You absolutely can return to enjoying food with ease. It starts with something small, and your body, just like Henry's, will respond. If any of these signs felt familiar to you, please don't ignore them. Leave a comment and share what resonated with you. Your story might help someone else feel less alone. Give this video a like if the information was helpful. Subscribe and hit the bell. We're creating more videos just for you with care and heart. You are not alone. You are stronger than you think, and life keeps going, especially when you choose to hold it by the hand.